Hey guys, welcome back. Today is another gorgeous day and we are going to be planting out in the front. I finally went and got the grasses because the other day we were supposed to be buying grasses. If you remember, we went down to the garden center for grasses and we came back with a truckload of annuals instead. But anyways, we went back down to the garden center and I picked up some really beautiful varieties that I'm excited about. I talked a little bit about planting grasses out in our landscape. We used to have a really beautiful variety of carex, some different sedge grasses, and then I don't know what happened. I just got a wild hair and I took everything out and I had given it to my friend. And then I realized you took everything out of the garden. You took all of the ornamental grasses out. What was I thinking? I wasn't. So anyway, so I picked up some new varieties to us that we were going to be planting today. I did see some other ones that I was like, oh, I really want them, but I also want to get some more anchor pieces in the front before we start bringing in more grasses, if that makes sense. So let me show you the varieties that we have. I also have a really cool rhododendron that we are going to be planting, which I am kind of like you can't sway me to love rhododendrons. There are times in the year that I'm like, I love them. Other times I'm like, no. But this one, I've had this one in its nursery can for quite a bit. And I just realized how beautiful it is. And I don't know why it's taken me so long to get it planted. So I'm going to show you that. And I also want to get some of the verbena that we started from seed earlier this year. They're looking really good. They're in their 4-inch containers. They're very like, get me out of here. So I am going to get those planted as well. And I think that will be it for today. We have a ton of things to get planted out in the front. I'm just trying to like kind of break it up so I'm not doing everything all at once. So where I'm just kind of being mindful of the spacing and everything, but it's going to get crowded. You know me, you know how I like to plant. I like to plant very densely. So anyways, let's take a look at the grasses and then we will just grab a shovel and then we will jump right in. I also want to say that you guys had the most beautiful suggestions for different grasses for our garden. I actually wrote down all of the different varieties that you guys had mentioned in that shopping video. I wrote it down in my little notebook, so I have those saved because we do want to come in and plant some grasses in the back and also in the side garden. So I'm going to reference that list again because, again, you guys had some beautiful suggestions. All right, here are the varieties that I went with so far. We got 4 of the Carl Forster grass, and I talked about this one before, and I just love this grass. My friend has it and I always admire it, especially in the fall time. And this one is going to get 3 to 5 feet tall by 1.5 to 2.5 feet wide. And they're hardy in zones 5 through 9. I love the way that this grass just kind of sways, especially when just we have a little bit of like a windy day and you just kind of see them dancing. They have that really nice pencil-like structure, but because they're fluffy and they have those little plumes at the tips, it just gives them a lot of movement, which I really like. I also picked up just one Hakanakloa grass because I'm going to plant this right underneath our crimson Japanese maple in the back. I should have really gotten like 3, but I went with 1. So we might need to go pick up some more. And then finally, I got this Pennisetum redhead, and this one is really cool. I actually don't know if I have a plant tag for this one. Hold on. I don't think I do. Okay, so I just looked it up, and these are going to get 3 feet tall by 4 feet wide. And they are, let's see, hardy in zones 5 through 9. So I love that. And I actually was looking at pictures of these and they're beautiful. They just have a really nice round mound to them. And I think these are going to be really great for borders. I'm just going to tuck these throughout the garden. But if you're looking for a shorter border that's not going to get too massive, these would be one that I would definitely recommend. One of the biggest reasons I love to plant grasses in our landscape is because I love planting dancing plants. So those are going to be the plants that are always swaying when you walk by, or you just gently give them like a little touch when you're walking by them, and they're just so beautiful. And they're kind of like the unsung heroes in our garden because they really act as a good transition between different groupings of plant. And so it's just shocking to me that I went this long without planting more ornamental grasses in our landscape. And I'm like, what's taking so long? So I'm happy that we're going to start with these guys. Again, we do want to come in with different varieties, maybe even some like low growing ones. I definitely want to bring in more grasses again in the side garden. I think that's going to be beautiful. But just keep in mind when you are thinking about your landscape, don't forget about your ornamental grasses. In fact, I would probably think about those right after I thought about my trees, because trees are going to be your anchor pieces. So you always start out big to small. I always think about my trees first. You guys know I love my trees. And then I move down to the shrubs, but I'm actually thinking shrubs and grasses kind of go hand in hand because they do make such an impact in your garden, and you can plant them in drifts. You can plant them as borders. You can plant them as standalone plants. They are so hardy. Majority of them can take full sun. So they're very versatile plants to consider for your garden. So again, if you don't have any in your garden, jump in my train and start planting more in your space, because I guarantee you it's going to just bring everything to life and make things feel a little less rigid. And this is the rhododendron that we are going to be planting today. I mean, just look at how cute she is. And look, we still have some buds, but when it started to bud up, it was just this like mound of this really bright magenta pink on the outside, and then it started to bloom, and it's just this gentle color on the inside, and it's just the loveliest little plant. So this is a Yaku Sunrise rhododendron, and a couple of places have different sizes. It can get between 2 to 4 feet tall and wide within 10 years. Other places say only 2 feet tall and wide in 10 years. So I think those are going to kind of be the ranges for these plants. I do think that they're very versatile in the garden. These are hardy in zones 5 through 9, and they can take sun to part sun, which is going to be great because I'm going to plant it in our tree island. I think it's going to look really beautiful over there where we used to have the Daphne. I think this is going to be a great replacement, and we can maintain its size and not let it get too large. So this is probably the biggest size of rhododendron that I would personally have in my garden because I can maintain it. It's not going to take up too much space, and it's going to add a lot of really beautiful spring interest in that area. So the only things we're going to need for today's project is the Beaverton. I'm going to get a shovel. I have my gloves. I have my knee pad, although I always get my knee pad and I never use it, but I need to, because my pants always just get so gross afterwards. Anyways, you probably will see my stepdad in the background. He is working on painting the other walls of the house, so you're probably going to see him in the background. And I think that's it. We will get our verbena in a little bit here, so I can just get these grasses in first, and then I will go ahead and go grab those verbena and we'll get those in the ground as well. So I am thinking the Carl Forester. I have 4. They didn't have any more. I should have just bought the bigger ones, but oh well. They grow pretty fast. I'm thinking one right in this area here, and then when they get more in stock, I will like to tuck some more in the other sides of the bed. There is the other bed on the other side of the garden that I would like to put the remaining 3 that we have. Let me just swing over here and step back and take a quick look. Initially, I thought about putting one of the Carl Foresters right back here, but I think I want to do something a little bit more interesting in that corner, and maybe we can offset the Carl Forester like in here. I would love to just plant like a hedge of them right over here. I think that'd be beautiful, but not until we redo the siding. Back here, I don't want to plant any grasses yet. We will come in with the Pennisetum redhead and just kind of tuck it in different areas over here. The other area I'm thinking about putting a bigger grass is right back here behind this delphinium, and there's a rock right there. The only thing is, I'm thinking about doing either this really gorgeous hydrangea that I've been trying to get my hands on for a while, but I haven't been able to, or a lilac. So I kind of want to wait maybe for this area. Gosh, I really wish I would have moved this delphinium, but now I kind of want to just let it bloom and then divide it and just move it a little bit. Let's think. And I just don't want to crowd it too much because we have a ton of annuals to bring in here. So maybe I do go with one of the Pennisetum redheads kind of off to the side back there. Over here, I was going to move this hosta as well, but it leafed out, so I don't want to move it right now. But what I think I'll do is put one of the redheads in the back, and I think that's going to be lovely right next to the pine over here. And then over here, I'm thinking one right in this space over here. I do have a hydrangea coming up I do have some dahlias that I'm going to go ahead and dig up because those are not going to stay. So I think that's going to be very beautiful. Just a nice airy accent in this space right here. So let's start there and see how it goes. Wow, the roots on these are insane. Like, I don't know if you guys can see that. Holy cow. All right, I'm just gonna scratch these up to break them up a bit because, wow. This poor thing. It's been wanting to get planted for so long. I feel like I rescued it. Poor little grass. It's just surviving. But that's okay. Plants are so resilient and it will do fine. All right, we got all of the grasses planted and the rhododendron. I am going to skip the verbena because Sergey is ready to have dinner. We like to have dinner together. So I'm going to leave that for another day. And I also want to just kind of sit with the placement of the grasses. And there's a couple of areas where I'm thinking, ooh, we maybe need to go get maybe like 1 or 2 more different varieties, especially because the daffodils are getting ready to be done for this season. And I think that will also visually help me visualize where these other varieties can go. But I want to show you what a difference it's made already. And I know it's kind of hard to picture because they're not in their full size quite yet, and they will get there pretty quickly. But just having them in the ground now, and I can like start to visually see it, it's going to be good. So starting right back here with the pennisetum, the redhead pennisetum, this is going to fill in this area so nice. And I actually wanted to do more of the Carl Forsters in the back because it's going to give us that height. And I think along the house would be so spectacular, but we're going to wait on that until we maybe redo the setting, because that I want to get a little bit closer to the house to plant those. But in the meantime, this along with the Shishiga Lion's Head maple here, I think is going to be stunning, especially when these are done for the season. The other one is tucked right over here under the blue atlas, and I think that is going to fill in nicely, especially if we're looking from this view. Just kind of visualize that kind of popping up. I think that's going to be pretty. And then we did a Carl Forster right there in the back, just kind of against that little corner. And if I swing around this way, there's one more redhead pennisetum right there. And I did plant it a little bit close to the Carl Forster, but that is going to stay pretty narrow, so I'm not too worried about it. And I just kind of want a little bit of interest there, and that still leaves us this beautiful opening to do something very pretty back here. Again, maybe, I don't know, maybe a lilac. I'm thinking something that has a little bit more flower power in this corner back here. And that also leaves us all of this open area to just do all of our annuals. Maybe one more grass in this little corner here. Let's just sit with it for a bit though. The lighting is so beautiful right now. Look at how beautiful the rhododendron looks. Just look at how sweet and delicate that is. I think this is the perfect spot for this plant. And in terms of maintenance, we will just come in and make sure we deadhead everything after it's done blooming. That is the optimal time to deadhead and cut back your rhododendrons. So really like late spring, early summer. That way it gives your plants enough time and energy to start putting on blooms for next season. So it's important, if you are going to cut back your rhododendrons, do it right after they're done blooming. So just stepping back, look at how pretty that is. And it's especially beautiful right when it starts to bloom, just because it glows. Now on this side of the garden, we planted the other redhead pennisetum right over here. This is going to, again, create that nice mound, and it leaves this whole area over here for some pretty bedding annuals and maybe some other perennials that we can bring in. But what I'm looking forward to over here is we get this beautiful afternoon light, and grasses just glow with that afternoon light. So I'm very excited for that one over there. And over here, we tucked in the Hakanakloa grass. Now, I know it doesn't look like much, but what I would like to do is maybe come in with a couple of more in this area. And eventually, I would love to remove these pavers right here and do a stacking stone wall. I think I talked about doing this. I don't even remember when we talked about it, but I think it would be so lovely just to bring this wall up a tad more and do it with something a little bit more different. I'm not in a rush, just because I love the mossy growth on everything. I think it looks so charming this way, but I think having the stacking stones would be so beautiful. And it was just something I've been dreaming about, honestly, since the day we got this house. I knew I wanted to do a better retaining wall in this section over here. And while we're here, I kind of changed things up a bit, and I put 3 of the Carl Forsters right back here in this little trio. I think it's going to be more impactful to have the 3 in a little triangle versus kind of spreading them out, because again, now that I started, I'm gonna want to do a lot more grasses everywhere. So I think this is going to be a nice little trio of them in this corner. So here they are from the front. Again, you're not going to really see much right now because they're still pretty small. But look, just imagine that beautiful grassy texture coming in, and it's just going to fill in this gap over here against this wall. I think that's going to look so, so good. Back here, we also have the other redhead pennisetum tucked in between our little weeping spruce and the fluffy arborvitae. And just walk over here. And the other one is right over here, right behind this rock. And I do want to limb up this maple a little bit more next year, so you're able to see through a little bit better in this area. But look at all of the planting room we still have. So I think this will give us or provide more room to do creative things in this space here as well. I am so happy that I came to my senses and brought back ornamental grasses into our garden because it was desperately asking for it. The other thing you want to keep in mind when you're thinking about grasses in your landscape, not only does it break things up a bit, but it adds that different element of texture because we can plant a lot of vertical things, plants with disc flowers like achilles, but the grassy texture just adds more movement into your garden. So again, if it's not something you already have, I highly recommend you look into some varieties for your garden because it will really change your garden for the best. It's just going to add that movement, that light that I think a lot of us lack in our garden, because when you don't have grasses, sometimes it can feel a little bit rigid. Not all of the time, but I do find that, again, the grasses just soften things up a lot more. And I cannot believe I went this long without having more in our own landscape. Anyways, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today in my garden and getting some of these things planted. I am just like, I'm so excited because it's like the beginning, right? It's the beginning. We have so much planting to do. Our mulch is ordered and it's coming in. So I'm trying to just make all of the mess that I can right now so I don't have to be as careful because it's going to be blown in and I just cannot wait. But anyways, again, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today in my garden and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.